Real crime stories, backyard beverage, coffee with Cannon, bitching with Bill, whatever you want to call it. I got my EquiSearch hat on to trying to push the EquiSearch because great organization. Anyway, folks, nice day today. Finally, we're gonna have a day without rain, a day with some sunshine. Uh, Scott, according to the starting time, I should have started 4 minutes ago. Well, here I am. We can't complain. Here I am. I'm in the chat with you guys. Schmitty, good to see you guys. Um, Welcome everyone to the show. I was wavering whether I should go on the computer or should I do a backyard beverage, a coffee with Ken. And after last night, I felt like the Supreme Commander. How are you? How are you? I thought that I could use a little bit of a cooler, an easier show. Hi, Dilly Pickles. Good to see you, Jennifer. Hello, Anna Pekarski, Wendy Kraft. Good afternoon, Sergeant Bill. Good afternoon, everyone. So good to see everyone. So, guys, I'm going to explain. I just want to wait a little longer. I see a new member just show at the top of the screen. I'm not seeing their name right now, but thank you, all you folks that are part of our YouTube family, our YouTube channel members, and of course our Patreon members, and just all you guys that interact with. Sound like duty run. All you guys that positively interact with the police off the cuff, real crime stories, coffee with Ken, bitching with Bill, backyard beverage, whatever you want to call it. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. So last night, what occurred was I had the great, and I love this guy too, Bobby Chacon, retired FBI agent, but he's also much more than that. Bobby Chacon is okay. He did have a little bit of a family emergency. I don't want to go into it. Um, that's his personal business. But he did send me an email, and he was all apologies. But just shows you about what it's like to have a live YouTube show that the show must go on. And when it's live, it reminds me of the time where I had a computer problem in Florida, and Mike Geary was left on the air by himself. He didn't know what to do, so he just kept talking, which was the right thing to do. So yeah, last night Bobby Chacon had a family an emergency, and he couldn't make it, and he was all apologies today. But just to tell you who he is, not only is he a fantastic retired FBI agent who spent a lot of his career in Brooklyn fighting drug cartels and drug crimes and murders. He worked with some of the NYPD squads in Brooklyn, but he also was fighting terror in Iraq and Baghdad, and just an amazing guy. And he writes for a lot of these crime shows, these forensic crime shows. So he's a brilliant guy. He's got a law degree. So I can't deny it. I was disappointed that he wasn't able to make it last night. But the good thing is he's promised me to come on again in the future, and I'm going to definitely take him up on that. But Jolena Serino, Kami, Bill, hi, how are you? Good to see you. And the other thing about Bobby Chacon, I'll mention him one more time, then I'll go off the subject. Both his father and his brother are or were NYPD sergeants. So he's law enforcement family, law enforcement royalty anyway. So guys, we're seeing a lot of information on this case, and I spoke about the case last night. And there's a lot of people involved in this case who are going on the media, being interviewed. Kami, thank you, Kami. The bucket for 6 months. You deserve a thumbs up, part of the YouTube channel membership family. Many people involved in this case are going on broadcast stations and talking about the case and what they have on the case and what their role in the case was. And I'm not used to that because on the NYPD, we try to keep it close to the vest, and we try not to show all of our cards to the other side. Anyway, what does that do for us? It gives us transparency, and we learn a lot more about the case than Christine Seymour, how are you? Bob T, guys, there's already 95 people in the chat, 37 thumbs up. Let's bring him in. Where's all my friends from Ireland, from England, from Australia, from across the pond, from South Africa? Come on, guys, where are you? You got to join us. This is one of Bob T, good to see you. YLZ Pony, good to see you. Excellent to see you. Uh, why was the Long Island serial killer? You know, YLZ, that's a great question. I think they had a belt on him. First of all, he's a fat pig, right? So to cuff him behind his back and then transport him out to Long Island, which was about an hour and a half to 2 hour drive at that time, um, they felt it would have been easier for him to be cuffed in the front, but also cuffed to a belt so he couldn't move. Ordinarily, cuffing someone in the front is a total no-no, totally against NYPD procedure. But this is Suffolk County, but they had another way to get about it for the safety of the officers that had to drive this guy an hour and a half. So they have him cuffed in the front, but he was attached to a belt. So that more or less ensured their safety. Are you guys saying it's hard to hear me? I had this problem the other day. I turned up the volume. Anyone else having a hard time hearing me? I hope not. Again, I changed. I made sure. Yes, Bisbee, you're having a. Can I get closer? Yeah, I can get closer, but I don't know if that's going to solve the problem. I have a microphone really up close. I sound far away. Sound great, someone says. Hard to hear. Kami, good to see you. Can hear, but just soft. All right, I'll try to speak a little bit louder. I'll speak louder, loud and clear. If I sing a song, I'll try to sing it a little louder. Good, just turned your sound up. That could be it, guys. Check your own sound, because sometimes, you know, your own sound, you turn it up and you can hear it much better. It sounds a little low, Kerry Cullinan. Turn up the sound. Turn up the volume, you know. Let's turn that volume up. It could be road noise, could be roadkill. Sounds great, Bill. Good to see everyone. Lots of back noise. Mine's at max. Better moment. 131 in the chat, 58 with the thumbs up. So, guys, I wanted to mention something. In that, I have this 32-page report that is entitled the bail application report that was put out by the Suffolk County DA's office, and I want to read some from it. The disappearance and murder of Maureen Brainard Barnes. Maureen Brainard Barnes was last seen on July 9th, 2007 in New York City. At that time, she was believed to be working as a sex worker. On July 6, 2007, Miss Brainard Barnes' cell phone was contacted by a burner cell phone. Between July 6, 2007 and July 9, 2007, there were 16 interactions between this burner phone and Brainard Barnes' cell phone. On July 9, 2007, the last cell site location for the Brainard Barnes cell phone was at approximately 11:56 p.m. in Midtown Manhattan near the 59th Street Bridge. Thereafter, the Brainard Barnes cell phone had no further activity until July 12, 2007. On July 12, 2007, 3 days after her disappearance, 2 outbound calls were made from Brainard Barnes' cell phone, checking her voicemail from a cell site location near the Long Island Expressway in Icelandia. Now, could that have been Rex Heuermann checking in this freaky way? Because people had asked me, was the keeping of the victim's cell phone, or cell phones in this case, there were 2 cell phones that he kept, could that be considered a trophy? Absolutely. And we mentioned how in these cases, this type of serial killer, a sadistic sexual serial killer, would keep a trophy like that, because that's how they would get their kicks out of it much after the fact. I'm going to continue with this. The disappearance and murder of Melissa Bartolome. Melissa Bartolome was last seen on July 10, 2009 in New York City. At that time, she was believed to be working as a sex worker. On July 3, 2009, Miss Bartolome was contacted by a burner cell phone. Thereafter, the Bartolome cell phone was contacted by this burner cell phone on July 6, July 9th, and July 10th, 2009, which was the last day she was seen alive. On July 10th, 2009, cell site records indicate the burner cell phone traveled from Massapequa Park to Midtown Manhattan, Later that evening, the Bartolome cell phone traveled from Midtown Manhattan to Massapequa, with the last cell site location being in Massapequa on July 9th, 2009 at approximately 1:43 a.m. On July 9th, 2009, Miss Bartolome's cell phone was used to make an outbound call checking her voicemail from a cell site location in Freeport. On July 11th and July 12th, 2009, the Bartolome phone made 2 more outbound calls checking her voicemail from cell site locations in Babylon. On July 17th, July 23rd, August 5th, August 19th, and August 26th, 2009, the Bartolome phone made taunting phone calls to Miss Bartolome's family members, some of which resulted in a conversation between the caller, who was a male, and a relative of Melissa Bartolome, in which the male caller admitted killing and sexually assaulting Miss Bartolome. As described below, the cell site locations of the Bartolome phone during these taunting calls was all in Midtown Manhattan. Now, what a lot of people are asking right now, this was 2009. These were these burner cell phones. How come in 2009 they weren't able to identify who was making these calls, which was undoubtedly the perpetrator, who we know now to be Rex Heuermann? And there's many reasons for this, and one of them, of course, is the reason people buy burner cell phones is because they allow you to be anonymous. So you can buy this number and you don't have to identify yourself to the store or to the number or to the carrier. You just are issued this number. However, years later, a confluence of investigative techniques, investigative resources, investigative information, voluminous amounts of paper, trails, cell phone, cell sites, and at the same time, technology was exploding in better ways to track cell phones, in better ways to marrying the financial records of the identified perpetrator, Rex Heuermann, with these burner cell phones. I always want to call them boost phones. I used to call them boost phones. Now they call them burner phones. Even the street technology and the investigative. Michael Allen, the NSA records every phone call. They just won't reveal what they're. Well, look, we know now that the technology exists, that they can identify a lot quicker than they could in 2009, 2009. The technology now is exploded, and law enforcement can work hand in hand with these carriers. Also, with the computer technology, with Google, and with actually searching Rex Heuermann's computer from a remote location, so that he didn't know that they were doing this, and finding out. Again, all of this seems so simple when it's reduced to a 32-page report that is this bail report. Someone just asked me what happened to Bobby Chacon last night. I explained earlier, guys, when I first came on, Bobby Chacon had a little bit of a family emergency. Everything's okay right now, but that's why he couldn't make it onto the show. He sent me an email profusely apologizing. And to tell you the truth, when you have a live show like we do, like Duty Ron does, like a lot of content creators on YouTube do, you have to be able to just adjust. The show must go on, as they say in show business. And I did the best I possibly could last night without having a guest on, and with filling in the information myself without. I had planned to ask Bobby Chacon lots of questions, and I didn't get a chance to do so, but we'll get him on the show another time. I just read to you guys, now I have a few more. I just read the disappearance of Melissa Bartolome. In this report on page 6 also is Pauline Buckles, you did great. It was still fun and interesting. Pauline, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. It always feels good to be appreciated by you guys and to know that you're putting out some good information. And the, uh, the comments in the chat and the questions asked are just fantastic, and I really appreciate that. The disappearance and murder of Megan Waterman. Megan Waterman was last seen at the Holiday Inn in Hauppauge, New York on June 6, 2010 at approximately 1:30 a.m. At that time, she was believed to be working as a sex worker. On June 5th, 2010, Miss Waterman's cell phone was contacted by another burner cell phone which had just been activated that day. Thereafter, the Waterman phone communicated with this burner cell phone on June 6, 2010 at approximately 1:31 a.m., which is around the time Megan Waterman was captured on video surveillance exiting the Holiday Inn in Hauppauge for the last time. Following that communication, the burner cell phone had no further phone activity. However, cell site records show that Waterman's phone traveled to Massapequa Park, with the last cell site location being in Massapequa Park at approximately 3:11 a.m. in the vicinity of the residence of defendant Heuermann. So he took her cell phone too, and we mentioned a trophies in this case. And to this defendant, Rex Heuermann, the number one, Jeff Clark, good to see you. Good day from Oz, everyone. Probably the biggest trophy that he could have had were these two cell phones, the cell phones of the victims. And what he used these cell phones for was the ultimate trophy for a sadistic, psychotic serial killer. And I'm now going to read the, I remember the years ago when I was a teacher, some people in the projects had them. Well, burner cell phones and boost cell phones, like I used to call them, was specifically usually the terrain of drug dealers because they wanted to change their phone up frequently. Maybe not every day, maybe not every week, but frequently because Carmelita, good to see you. I'm late here, but good afternoon, Bill. Carmelita, welcome. Always good to see you here. Because drug dealers could be caught on a wire, right? Could be caught on an eavesdropping warrant. So to preclude that or to make law enforcement's job much more difficult, they would get these burner cell phones and get rid of them frequently. And they would just pay for the minutes by the day. Trina Dickerson, me, Bill, you do a great job. Thank you for your work. Trina, thank you so much. This case is, I would have said last night had Bobby Chacon been on that I would have loved to have worked this case with this great team, this great task force of the Gilgo Beach task force. This is a detective's dream, an investigator's dream to be part of something like this and to see it. Ed Sorella, how are you, buddy? To see it to its fruition where they actually got to put the handcuffs on this guy. And now, of course, it's not over. It's totally not over. And let me just get, again, page 7 of this bail application, which, by the way, all you guys can get this report. It's available online. It really gives you some great information as per this case. I want to read about the disappearance and murder of Amber Costello. Amber Costello was last seen on September 2nd, 2010, leaving her residence at 1112 American Avenue in West Babylon during the late evening hours. At that time, she was believed to be working as a sex worker. On September 1st, 2010, the day prior to the disappearance of Amber Costello, Miss Costello's cell phone was contacted by a burner cell phone. We're seeing in all these cases, the commonality are the contacts with this burner cell phone. But it's not the same burner cell phone. There's different burner cell phones. So we all may ask, oh, they should have got him much sooner. They had this information. And we'll get into that a little bit later. On September 1st, 2010, this burner cell phone had communication with the Costello phone at approximately 11:33 p.m. and 11:34 p.m. During those communications, the burner cell phone connected to cell site towers in West Amityville and Massapequa Park. Thereafter, the burner cell phone traveled to West Babylon in proximity to the residence of Amber Costello and had contact with the Costello phone at approximately 12:05 a.m. on September 2nd, 2010. According to witnesses, around the time of these communications between the burner cell phone and the Costello phone on September 1st to 2nd, 2010, a prostitution client showed up at Miss Costello's residence located in West Babylon, New York. After the client entered the home, a ruse was executed on the client whereby a person pretended to be the outraged boyfriend of Amber Costello, and the client left from the residence while Amber Costello retained the money the client had brought to pay for the services. Based upon interviews, that client was described as a large white male, approximately 6'4" to 6'6" in height, in his mid-40s with dark bushy hair and big oval 1970s type eyeglasses. A witness described him to police as appearing like an ogre. Furthermore, a witness noticed a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche parked in the driveway of the residence. According to the witnesses, following the ruse, this client said he was just a friend. Tell her I'll give her a call, and walked out the front door. Thereafter, at approximately 1:18 a.m. on September 2nd, after the ruse was perpetrated, the burner cell phone sent a text message to the Costello phone which stated, "That was not so nice. I should get credit for the next time." Phone records show that the burner phone was located in Massapequa Park within 2 minutes of this text message being sent. According to a witness, later the next day on September 2nd, 2010, Ms. Costello was again contacted by the same client that was in the house the night before with the avalanche. Further, Amber told us that he wanted to see her again, but he didn't want to come back to the house because of her boyfriend. Thereafter, on September 2nd, 2010, at approximately 9:32 p.m., the same burner cell phone from the previous evening again communicated with the Costello phone. During this communication, the burner cell phone used a cell site located in Midtown Manhattan. Following this communication and based upon the cell site records, the burner cell phone traveled to Massapequa Park and had contacts with the Costello phone at approximately 10:39 p.m. and 11:05 p.m. Cell site records for the burner phone indicate that at approximately 11:17 p.m., the phone traveled to West Babylon in proximity to the residence of Amber Costello. Subsequently, Amber Costello left her own cell phone behind, walked out the front door of her residence, and was seen alive for the last time. Shortly after Ms. Costello left the house, a witness observed a dark-colored truck pass the house, specifically coming from the direction Amber had walked towards. Records established, also this is interesting, that defendant Heuermann's wife was out of New York for the disappearance of Bartolome, Waterman, and Costello. Significantly, travel records show that on July 8, 2009, defendant Heuermann's wife departed the United States for Iceland. On August 18, 2009, defendant Heuermann's wife returned to the United States. Consequently, defendant Heuermann's wife was out of the country during the time of Miss Melissa Bartolome's disappearance. Interesting, guys, right? Interesting. So this is 2010. And this is when we're hearing about the Chevy Avalanche. So one of the things we do know is that when Rodney Harrison became the police commissioner of the Suffolk County Police, he put together this task force. And one of the things, and it was actually credited to a state police investigator, I believe a female investigator, that through, I believe it was a search called Lawman, and that's a search you can do for the history the DMV history. For example, if we go on any one of your DMVs in New York State, let's keep that clear, in New York State, and I'm sure other states have the ability to do this too, we search your history. It will tell us every car that you've owned throughout your life. And Ed Cirillo, Bill, I live on Second, and this demon was strange. And his brother killed a cop in '88. I understand that in a DWI accident. His brother Craig, who now lives down in South Carolina, where this Chevy Avalanche that was purportedly used back in 2010 is now kept. So I was getting to the fact that a state police investigator, and actually a female investigator, I don't have her name right now, she was praised by Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison as the one that got one of the most important pieces of evidence, and that was tracing this Chevy Avalanche to Rex Waterman. Now, all of these things, of course, all of these things seem so simple now, don't they? And why didn't the police know this now? And why didn't they put this together? Why didn't they put... Because the chronology of when they got this information isn't clear. And this goes back to 2010. So guys, we know that's 13 years ago, right? And how the chronology of how all of this evidence came together. Kelly Visa, so much evidence, I think we need a flow chart. It would help you. You know, when I used to have these cases that were very complicated, I would put together timelines, detailed timelines, and that can really help you to understand, because even people that read the case folder, it can get confusing sometimes. And that's why now these cases, thank God the police department, I used to say the NYPD used to operate in caves, and they would start fire by hitting two rocks together, because we were way behind the technology of other police departments. We were using typewriters when everyone else had gone to computers. We didn't have a complaint follow-up or complaint database. And I think the money, the federal money from 9/11 helped a lot of police departments modernize, including the NYPD, because we had horrific equipment. We had horrific, you can't believe it, the #1 police department in the world, and I'm telling you this, but we were using carbons and typing known as DD5s, which stands for complaint follow-ups. We were typing them on carbons. And, you know, just the nature of investigation, the voluminous nature, is perfect for computers. Like, you want to have a complaint, like a case like this. How about being able to search certain things in a case? And you can't do it if it's on a physical DD5 that never gets into a database, right? So now it goes right, Anna Pekoski, yeah, the wire, exactly. The technology we were using on the NYPD, and I can tell you some other horror stories, but I don't want to beat on the NYPD. Even with all of that, we were still the greatest police department in the world, right? But as we started getting technology, forget about it. You know, there's no one better, right? And that's evidenced by the fact that, you know, Rodney Harrison brought to the Suffolk County Police Department NYPD know-how, and specifically going to that task force, that a case that was open for 13 years now, and they put a task force together, and a year and a half later, the case is solved. And, you know, we're going to talk about, how about the other bodies they have in this case? Are they connected? Can they connect them to Rex Heuermann? Well, guess what? We don't know that yet, but they're painstakingly going through the steps of an investigation, and they're going to try to see if they in fact can get closure for these families of these loved ones that have been lost now for 13 years, laying on the side of a highway, you know. Ed Cirillo, my grandfather just sent an IBM's bill from 1989. It's so true. I mean, when even, you know, we used to have problems getting cars for the squad. I remember when I was in the 2-3 squad, and no one, of course, will ever believe this, We had no cars at one point. All the cars went down. We had zero cars. Detectives were either walking to jobs or they were getting patrol to drive them to a crime scene. It was pathetic. And we were like, we finally got a new CO of Detective Borough Manhattan, and he became the car czar. And he started getting us cars. First one, two, then three. And then he soon got us, he got things done. I'll give him that much credit. And but how do you let that happen? How does the department? And when you hear people say defund the police, yeah, excellent idea. Excellent idea. There's real casualties to defunding the police. Um, Rentals, Scott, the same thing. Rental cars. The way the NYPD solved some of those car problems, they started getting rental cars. You're right, and they didn't have the police packages in them. So if you wanted to pull someone over, good luck. You had that little red light, you had the little FBI light on the dashboard, but you didn't have a whoop 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 whoop. You didn't have that. So yeah, we were still the greatest police department with some of the most antiquated, worst equipment. I remember, I think it was Bill Bratton, when he came back, he got everyone's cell phones. We used to have these cell phones. There was one cell phone for the squad. You had to put so many codes in it, you couldn't get the damn thing to work. It was so ridiculous. They were more concerned about someone making uh, personal calls on the stupid department phone. Guess what, though? Now every officer there, out there, every single officer has a phone. So when you go on patrol, you can interact with the 911 caller. You can interact with the base. You can get photographs of wanted perps sent to your phone. How great is that? How amazing is that? In like real time. Oh, can I get I think I see so-and-so out on the street. Can I get his picture? Pull up his picture on your phone. Boom, that is him. Great. And how about being able to interact with complainants on the phone and the 911 operator en route to a job? That could save so many lives. Who is this guy? Sector Adam, we have a history on this location. He just got out of prison. He's a violent offender. He was in prison for 20 years for murder, and he got out early. Is that information useful, you think, to the sector car responding to that location? You bet. You bet it is, right? Or there was a violent incident at that location this morning. The perpetrator left the scene and was unapprehended. He's back now. Is that information that the radio car team's going to want? You bet. And technology can save people's lives. Let's get back to this case. So many people are going to say, and so many people are already saying, if they had all this information in 2010, how come they didn't identify him there? Let's talk about some of the physical evidence. Some of the physical evidence that enabled him to be identified was the technology caught up to it, right? Scott, Sergeant, inspection started giving out hits for not carrying the department's phones. They, something they want to know. Those department phones can tell where a cop is every second through the GPS, right? So there's no more leaving your precinct for that favorite restaurant you have in Manhattan South, or if you work in the North. So all of the fun times of years gone past, they don't exist because they can track you. But I think that the good far weighs out the bad, because you are at work to work, and when you're at work, you want to be as safe as possible, and that absolutely helps you to remain safe. Is the technology that you have. So we talk about some of the evidence that they have that they couldn't identify years ago because the technology wasn't available. 3 hairs found on the bodies of the victims belonging to Rex Heuermann's wife, right? And some people might say, oh, is she involved? No, what I'm going to tell you is that's something called transfer evidence. So if Rex Heuermann obviously had contact with these victims, he also has contact with his wife and in his house. Those hairs could have gotten on his clothing. Or, remember we talked about his signature, which were the camouflage burlap bags? Where were they stored? In his house. Could his wife's hair gotten on those burlap bags in the house? He takes those burlap bags from his house and uses them to tie up the victims. His wife's hair is found on the burlap bags. Locard's theory of exchange, trace evidence, evidence that someone brought with them into the crime scene, which in this instance, the crime scene are the victims' bodies. And this is what helped 13 years later identify the perpetrator. Then we talk about how did they get Rex Heuermann's DNA? And incidentally, one hair belonging to Rex Heuermann was found on one of the bodies of the deceased. So we all know the pizza story, Pizzagate, right? They follow Rex Heuermann from his workplace in Manhattan. And there he is throwing out a pizza box, throws it in the garbage pail. They document it by taking a picture. They collect the pizza. They swab the crust that's left in the box. Because when you bite into a pizza, what happens to it? You get your saliva on it. As we all know, saliva is one of the biological fluids that contains DNA. Lo and behold, boom, it's Rex Heuermann's DNA. Well, they swab it and then they compare it against that hair and they get a hit. The hair on one of the bodies belonged to Rex Heuermann. How powerful evidence is that? How powerful is that? Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories, backyard beverage, bitching with Bill, coffee with Cannon. Thank you so much for joining me on this early afternoon. If you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring that bell. And we appreciate, we're growing, the channel's growing, people are starting to find out about us that didn't know about us before. And Zoe413, I'm glad you're here. Great to be here, I'm glad you're here. Ronnie Tear, okay, thanks. Like that name, Ronnie Tear. Pretty cool name. Heather, whatever. That's a great screen name. The dolls creep me out. Oh my God, with the dolls. Look, guys, they are not done with this case. The investigation is far from over. This investigation is going to lead the police to other very dark areas. I personally believe there are a lot more bodies involved in this guy. Potentially there could be someone else involved. That's a possibility, right? Other trophies. He had a storage facility. What did they recover in that storage facility? It hasn't been revealed, right? What have they recovered inside his house? You know, the big news yesterday was his wife files for divorce. Do you think Carmelita, just from hearing his web searches, I can only imagine the evidence that they uncovered. Carmelita, you're so right. Scary. The darkness of his web searches, just ugly, dark and ugly. You're right. Erica Olson, what about his brother in North Carolina? You know, Erica, that is a distinct possibility. I'm not going to point fingers at his brother, but of course, law enforcement is going to look at him. Absolutely. Law enforcement is going to turn over every rock they need to find out where does this investigation lead. And because this guy is the real deal. He's a serial killer, and he is the real deal. And again, I will say he's innocent till proven guilty. The way, if I don't say that, I get a lot of people coming after me. Oh, you're taking it, the police's word as gospel, and right now, he's charged with 3 murders, and they call it the Gilgo 4, but he's charged with the murder of Melissa Bartolome, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. So there is another one expected to be added once they have enough evidence to charge the 4th one, and then they're going to start looking, of course. The 4th one is Miss Maureen Brainerd Barnes. And again, I never, ever, in doing this kind of work, ever want to forget the victims and the victims' family, because that's who we work for. That's who, and I always quote the book Practical Homicide Investigation by Vernon Gebert, a former NYPD lieutenant commander, that we work for God, While yet still today, says that songbird again trying to upstage Sergeant Cannon. That's, I got lots of birds out here. They're always trying to upstage me, but that's okay. Uh, 269 in the chat, 170 with the thumbs up. Guys, if you're in the chat and you haven't given us a thumbs up, please give us a thumbs up. We like to equal that out. So yes, Miss Brainerd Barnes is the fourth case that they're holding on to in hopes that they can establish the probable cause they need in order to charge that. Ronnie Terr, thanks Sergeant Bill. Enjoy you and your expertise so much. NIP is the best. Hello from East Meadow, New York. Ronnie Terr, I grew up in Levittown. I was your next door neighbor in Levittown. Yeah, grew up there. Levittown Memorial High School. That's where I went to. The Panthers. Uh, Levittown Memorial doesn't exist anymore. All the Levittown Memorial people go to Division now. Levittown Division, another great school. Another Levittown. Back in my day, had great sports teams. Tough kids, you know, really tough kids. Other football towns didn't like to play Levittown because even if they beat us, they were hurting after that game because Levittown kids were known as hitters, you know. Ed Sorella, you know, that's a good question, Ed. I think that potentially one of the reasons he only committed these crimes when his wife was out of town was because possibly, very possibly, he brought the victims to his house, to his home. And also, his wife was, you know, she was in Iceland, so it was like no chance she was going to make a sneak visit back. You know, she was far away. And he knew that. You know, so there was also, you know, what as keeping this case in the news, keeping this case in the public consciousness, also helps a great deal for tips. TIPS. Scott, Levittown roller rink on Saturday nights. Wonder if Rex was a frequent flyer. Oh my God, the Levittown roller rink. That's blast from the past. That was back in the day. Yeah, just think, because Rex Heuermann is now 59 years old. So when these were occurring, he was about 46, 45. And according to Dr. Joni Johnston, a serial killer expert, she's disturbed by the fact that she doesn't believe he started when he was 45 years old. When did his serial killer career start? You know, Scott, yeah, we're old. We are old, Scott, but old and wise. You know, you're right. Old and wise. The wisdom of older people that have that experience, that's for sure. You know things. You remember things. And that was why old-time cops were so valuable. What they had inside their head was incredible. The knowledge that they had. Some of these guys had photographic memories. They could remember things. I remember that perp. He had this and he had that. He had this kind of car. He had a girlfriend named Baba. You know, guys like that had these photos, which it was invaluable. All summer long, he started long ago, not his first rodeo. All summer long, I agree with you. You know, I think that he probably started, you know, in his 20s. You know. The storage lockers, Kelly Visa, we don't know what they've recovered from there. You're absolutely right. There could be a treasure trove of evidence, of information. And don't we want there to be closure for the other families that lost loved ones that were dumped in the killing grounds of Gilgo? Don't we want there to be closure for those people? Don't we want them to be able to connect the dots on these cases and charge him with all of these things? And you know, this is the kind of Stephanie, yeah, there's so much to the story. It's just the beginning. 100%. Urban influence, he could have kept his victims at his house for days. Absolutely, he could have. You know, he had time. And since he's a sexual sadist, that would make more sense, right? That he would keep them around for purposes like that. You know, not that he would just, you know, kill them. And you know, what is it when you talk about sex workers, which all of these girls so far are, they were all working in the sex business. And I don't mean to disparage any of them for that, but what does that say about Rex Heuermann? The fact that he was targeting specifically sex workers. Does that say anything about his psyche? Um, I think it does, you know. And we could talk to tons of psychologists, tons of behavioral analysts. What does that mean? Was there a hatred of women in there? We've seen that before. A distinct hatred that they wanted to snuff out, or a moral ambiguity. Happy Hermit, sex workers are easy targets, no doubt. Happy Hermit, go down through history, and many serial killers have chosen sex workers because they're an easy target, and no one a lot of times they're living on the fringes of society. They don't have a lot of people checking up on them, seeing what happened to them, and so yeah, there's no doubt. But what does that say about his psychology that he was targeting specifically sex workers? Um, it says something, you know. Bambi G, yeah, it would be nice to know if he drank a lot or dealt in drugs. You know, look, all of those things we're going to find out. But one of the things that, and some of you folks don't realize, because I've had people in the chat say, "Oh, why didn't the police interview him and make him confess?" I said, because once a defendant says, "I want an attorney," all questioning is off. It's over. There's no more questioning. You can't just question them because you want to. Once they say, "I want an attorney," they have invoked counsel, and you must read them. You must read them Miranda. You know, Miranda warnings. You have the right to remain silent and refuse to answer questions. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand that? You have a right to have an attorney. You know, all of that stuff is Miranda warnings. And if they waive their Miranda warnings and say they're willing to speak with you, then of course the police are gonna, and the defendant can make the job of the police so much easier. But minus that, they can't question them. That's the law, guys. And I think most of you know that. But there's those that don't, and they ask, why didn't the police question them? And that's why. Because Happy Hermit, yes, he either hired an attorney or one was assigned to him at the arraignment. So do you think Tierney's going to try a psych? No, I don't think. I think that would be something. A psychological evaluation would be something that the defense would request, unless, look, this guy is not a candidate for an insanity plea at all. No way is he a candidate. The guy is very smart, cunning. He runs a business. He owns a home. He's financially viable. He knows what he's doing. I don't think that defense of insanity. Miss Margaret, hello everyone. Really liked your program last night, Bill. I like it. Thank you so much, Miss Margaret. Really appreciate this, folks. It's Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories, Backyard Beverage, Bitchin' with Bill, Coffee with Cannon. I want to thank everyone that came by today. But have about a minute left. We're going to stay reporting on this case. Anything new? I'm sure there's going to be new things about this case popping up. We just saw on one of the news, Rex Heuermann was being interviewed last night on a couple of news stations. You know, that could be, a defense attorney would love that. See, she met with him and she's still alive. So how are you pinning these? You know, they love, defense attorneys would love to use something like that as part of his defense. So, so it's Happy Hermit saw her twice. She is legit. Yeah, apparently she's out of the sex worker business because she speaks about that in the past tense, and I'm glad that she survived this and survived this encounter with this monstrous man. You know, and that's a great thing. 251 in the chat, 199 thumbs up. I need one more thumbs up to get 200, and then there we go. We got it, folks. Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories, Coffee with Cannon, Backyard Beverage. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll see you very soon. Have a great day.